So you finished flight school. You have all your ratings. You have your commercial, your Group 1 IFR, you have your multi rating, and maybe a few other ratings and tests done like your IATRA or seaplane rating. But you can't find that elusive first job. All the listings online say that you need at least 500 to 1,000 hours. You try sending your resume out for maybe one or maybe even 2 years and you still don't get a job. You are not alone. This has always been what pilots call the Catch-22 of finding your first job. Hello everyone, my name is Henry and welcome back to the channel Henry Flies. Thank you very much for coming back here everyone. I know it's been a personal busy few months for myself, but I want to talk about the Catch-22 and getting your first pilot job because that was me 6 months ago before my first pilot job. And it was extremely frustrating. And if you're in the Catch-22 right now, my heart really goes out to you. But I just want to let you know that you will get that job eventually. Things will get better. Do not give up. And I'm going to share a few things with you that I wish I knew and resources that I knew about that would have made things a little bit easier. And again, post COVID and everything else, the aviation landscape has changed extensively. And it's really interesting to see both here in Canada, so this video is more geared towards Canadian aviators, but can be relevant to international aviators as well. It's been really interesting to see how things have changed post-COVID as well as have stayed the same in the same aspect. So I have 3 tips for you guys, and I have some personal tips as well as resources and things like that. So let's get started. So we're going to go through 3 main tips right now. And before we start, I just want to say, yes, it is frustrating, especially when you spend thousands upon thousands of dollars on all your ratings, everything else, and you just want to get in the right seat or the left seat of a smaller plane and start making money. But again, you will get there. I guarantee it just will take time. So 3 tips. First tip is continue to apply. Even if you don't meet the hour requirements or your other experiences, they don't match up with the ratings and things like that, apply anyways. A lot of recruiters would hate that I'm saying that because, again, there's no... Let's go to the entire idea of the pilot shortage. All right, we've all been hearing it for years, and it does exist, but with a caveat, and that there's a shortage of experienced pilots, and that's kind of how it's always been. So there's never really a shortage of the fresh 250-hour CPL commercial pilot, right? There's hundreds of you for that one elusive job, and it's frustrating, right? So, but with that being said, you need to cast your net wide, and I'll give you a few more resources at the end of the video to help you with this. But even if like you're only a 250-hour pilot and the listing says 300 hours, put in your resume and cover letter and other resources because you never know. Maybe people don't apply because they're worried that they don't meet the hours, or maybe, and this goes into our second tip, is that your other experiences can help get you positions based on that. So what I mean is that there's a company up in Northwest Territories, for example, where I didn't really meet the hour requirements, but they offered me a job because I had dispatch experience. And I didn't wind up taking the job because it would be at least 2 to 3 years on the ground, which is crazy. You got to draw the line somewhere. But your other experiences can help besides flying, especially if you're in bush flying, because if you can work with small engines or if you have woodworking skills, things like that, that can really help you with a smaller operator, because especially if they have cabins up north, or because again, your job isn't going to be flying for Jazz or regional straight off the bat. I'm sorry. It's just not how it works. Even if like you have like a large school experience, you're going to start off small somewhere. So yeah, again, on your resume and cover letter, like look at the job listing. If it's a small operator and they need those like hands-on skills, which especially you'll need in cargo and bush flying. Definitely relate to that. So my second tip is continue to develop yourself and, keep your day job or your small business as a means to an end. All right. Because again, those little things can really help you in the long run. Because like I said, I developed myself by passing the dispatch exams by myself and becoming a dispatcher and things like that. Like that can really help. And even like hobbies, right? Because again, going back towards woodworking, computers might help if you could do like their website IT stuff as well. Like a lot of smaller businesses need that kind of a skill set in aviation, and that can really help you. And my third main tip for today is say yes to more undesirable experiences, but remember it's okay to say no to unsafe experiences. And what I mean is most of the new jobs in Canada anyways these days for low hour pilots, and it's probably always been this way, are pilot and waiting positions. And what that is that you're going to be working on the ramp or the ground or as a flight attendant or as somebody on the desk for maybe 1 or 2 years. Yes, it's frustrating because we all want to get flying. Trust me, all my other ground to flight friends agree with this point. We all just want to get in a darn plane. But if you think from the business perspective, it makes sense, right? Because they have multi-million-dollar machines and they want to make sure that whoever they're hiring, they really want this job and it's a nice way to vet you. As well as if you're in air cargo, for example, I can personally vouch for this. It lets you get used to the entire operation, right? So maybe on the ground, they have you working forklifts, loading planes, things like that. And then eventually as a first officer, when they move you over, your captain might be from like a regional or somewhere that doesn't deal with cargo. But since you have this experience with like loading the plane, the weight and balances, things like this, you make the operation a lot easier for them because they can help you. Yeah, you are doing the labor, but again, we all start from somewhere, and it's a nice sense of empathy as well for the other ground to flighters, knowing that all the FOs have been through the same ringer, right? So say yes to undesirable experiences because honestly, you build life skills as well, right? And the people that you meet are amazing, or they should be in your workplace. As well, it's life skills, and in the end, when you are in the left seat of, if you want to be flying a heavy metal jet or something one day, those are the stories that you're going to be able to tell and look back on and say, oh, the good times in Sioux or wherever were great. So that other half of that, though, is do not take positions that are not safe. And this is a big one because I know we all want to get flying, but if you take a position with an operator that you know is not safe or heard stories of, chances are you will regret it. Yes, you want to get flying and get your hours as soon as possible, but I'm not going to mention any names or operators or things like that here in Canada. There are many like this, but I was offered a job at one of these operators. And again, you should always network with your fellow students and other people in aviation, and I found out that they really weren't a safe operator, and they were making you push your IFR limits and all these other things, and duty rest wasn't really a thing, which is a whole other legal aspect I won't get into. But just knowing that is something that you would be walking into, I would highly recommend not going to work there. Because yes, we all want to get our hours, but at the end of the day, you want to be able to apply to your first full-time pilot job, knowing that you've built good habits, you worked for a safe, reputable operator, because if it's an operator that has a reputation, other companies may not want to hire from them, as well as safety, right? You want to be able to go home at the end of the day, and if your operator is trying to push you to do things that aren't safe, in the end, you as the pilot, even as an FO, you are responsible for safety of the aircraft as well as yourself and your passengers, right? So as hard as it is, Say yes to undesirable experiences, so like a ground to air position, but don't take it if it's not safe. All right. Ask around, do your research, things like that. Make sure that you can go home at the end of the day. So because you want to get flying eventually, you don't want to wind up in a hole in the ground. So those are 3 important things to remember when going through the Catch-22. I do have some personal tips here, then we'll get into resources. So 3 personal tips for this. While it's hard, try your best not to cookie cutter your resume and cover letter. I know it's hard, especially when your rejections get into the 200 or 300s. For me, I think it was just around 200 before I got my job here at undisclosed location. But it really does make the difference. For example, when I was sitting around with my manager, we had somebody do a cross country come in. So like not in a plane, but getting in a car, going around Ontario, visiting operators, and they dropped off their resume. And my boss was like, wow, this is a really good resume. It's not a cookie cutter like all you guys did. They actually like talked about company history. They talked about like what they could bring to like our specific operation. And my manager noticed this, right? And like they're the people that hire on for ground to air people, and they do notice this. And I know, especially after 200 or 300 rejections, it can be so easy to just make a resume and cover letter where you just copy and paste the manager name or HR name and the company name and just send it off. But it really does make the difference, and they notice. Like it's so easily noticed. I know you might think, oh no, I have it clever. They do notice that, and just showing that my manager saw that, oh wow, they actually like went through the time. This person is on the list to maybe get hired now, right? Because they actually took the time, and yes, they did drop it off. I'll talk about that in a second here. But yeah, it's those little details, and please have somebody proofread it. Like it's so easy to make errors and spelling mistakes and things like that, especially if English isn't your first language. Definitely have somebody cross-check your resume and cover letter. All right. Next up, the 2 kind of last points here are kind of connected. Road trips, as well as kind of the traditional lower hour jobs. All right. So if you go on forums like AV Canada and stuff, they do recommend like road trips. So like if you live in Toronto, take like a few days and go to Northern Ontario or Quebec or wherever you want to go and drop off your resumes to employers personally. It might work with smaller operators, but these days I haven't really seen a lot of personal success with that. And the aspect that they are swamped so much with applications. And yes, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying what I've seen personally, because like I've actually seen people drop off resumes and things like that, and the hiring process in person post-COVID nowadays. If you are still not getting a job and it's been like a few months or whatever, then yeah, do it. But the big thing is that I find that having your resume and cover letter is like the main big thing, like having it professionally done, having it customized to the job. I think that is extremely important, especially with aviation right now and post-COVID. And this goes into my last personal tip right now, is that it is incredibly important to have mentors, but you also got to remember that I hate saying older, but older, more experienced, there you go, more experienced pilots, older pilots can be out of touch with the current hiring environment. And what I mean is that like I have many friends that are flying for the airlines now that are, some of them are retiring now. Some of them are older birds. Some of them are my age or even younger, right? And they're all like, oh, okay, why don't you apply for survey work or firewatch positions or things like that? The issue is that in the before times, before COVID, things like that, those are good jobs to apply for in the aspect of that, like, yeah, you only need 200-300 hours, and you're good to go. The issue is that a lot of those jobs, because of demand now, those entry level jobs are 500 to 1,000 hours now. Like, again, I'm not gonna say what company I applied for, but I remember talking to the HR person in the before times. It used to be a 250-hour position, but nowadays with so much demand in 2025, mind you, this was 2024, so things have probably even changed again. It's a 1,000-hour position now to fly a twin looking out for wildfires in Ontario. It's crazy because the demand is there that employers can pick and choose from experience levels that, yeah, we don't need to look for the bottom 250-hour pilots anymore. We can just go for the 1,000 hours that are going to be more gentle on our planes. And again, this is all, aviation is cyclical, like it's a cycle, right? So the chances are the hours are probably going to come down again once the demand equalizes. But right now, like, it can be really hard to talk to experienced pilots and say, oh yeah, like I'm having trouble finding my first job, and they say, oh, go on a road trip or just apply to like the 300-hour jobs. But the issue is that there's no 300-hour jobs right now, as well as like even one of the pilots at my workplace, like he started off at an operator that hired pilots at 300 hours, and that exact same job was like over 1,000 hours now. So it can be very depressing to kind of like relate our stories, and you might be saying, oh, it's not fair, like I did my same work too, or my thing was more expensive, like why can't I get a job? Again, it goes back to the whole point of like continue to network. Those ground to pilot positions are very valuable. And I know that it can be extremely frustrating, especially if you're spending 1 or 2 years on the ground, which right now, on average, it's between 1.5 to 2 years on the ground. But with that being said, you will be building your life skills and you will be building your reputation with the company, depending where you go. Again, do your own research. But yeah, those are kind of like my personal tips that landed me my first job. Before resources, if you have any questions about finding your first pilot job here in Canada anyways, I don't mind sharing my experiences in the comments. Again, I'm not really sharing where I work specifically because personal, I'm a ground to air as well. I want to keep my job. But I would love to connect and share with you personal tips and customized things. If you have any questions or comments, things that you've seen or things that you're experiencing, definitely let us know in the comments. Because again, the big thing about aviation, especially when you first start off, is it's about networking. It's about asking those questions and learning from others' experiences, right? So with that being said, let's go to resources. There's 3 big ones for you. The first one I personally didn't like because it's outdated and it doesn't really work as well anymore. Probably heard of it. It's AV Canada. It's an online blog where employers post. It's an old style blog. I personally don't like it, but a lot of people live by it. Take it at your own expense. Like, again, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying it's a resource out there that a lot of people don't know about. It's an older site, so you will get a notification saying, oh, your website's not secure, but it's okay. Nobody's died. So AV Canada is one. Secondly, and probably the most important one, guys and gals, another is Pilot Career Center. Especially if you're Canadian, they do a great job of updating their job boards because they have all your other things that you need to customize your resumes and cover letters, like names of like the people who are going to be hiring you and looking over your resumes, fleet compositions, addresses, emails, things like that. So if you want to say, instead of saying dear so-and-so, you can actually say dear Joe Blow or whoever is going to be looking at your resume. It's extremely important, and it's going to put you in front of the others trying to apply for the same job. Again, every little advantage you can take it. Make things easy for you. Come on. Pilot Career Center, under their new pilot job board, look at it, study it daily. That's how I got my job where I am now in my ground to air program. Definitely use it. All right. Abuse it. Use it to your full advantage. And last but not least, it's kind of out of left field here, but your local library for a resume, or even if there's like clubs or online forums and stuff, because I know I've said before, but I'll say it again, your resume and cover letter, like if you don't have any personal close friends in aviation, or even just like, writers or things like that, definitely, like, if there's any resume shop classes. And here's the thing too, is that like aviation, it's a little bit different because we have different certifications, your hours, things like that. And yes, you should put your hours in your resume. You shouldn't just say, oh, I'm totally above 200 or 300 hours. You should actually give your hours, especially on type and things like that. But workshops, I said library because very often community events and things, sometimes they have like, oh, reviewing your resume. But even if it's not like specifically aviation oriented, they might have recommendations on like ways you say things, or like your format or things like that. It's more important for like the larger companies because of their darn AI and HR form letter things nowadays. But yeah, with that being said, the entire real purpose of this video is to let you know you're not alone. All right, there are thousands of other pilots here in Canada and around the world. If you're an international viewer, again, welcome, bienvenue. You're not alone. All right, don't give up. Keep going. As Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, just keep going. You'll land your first pilot job, pardon the pun intended, eventually. All right. Again, not to make you scared, but it did take around 2 years for me to get mine where I am now. But with that being said, again, it's all cyclical, right? And the pandemic messed things up a little bit, in both good and bad. Where I am now, it's around a year. For me, it's going to be around a year wait. But right now, the current people, it's starting to get a little bit longer at a year and a half because they've hired a lot of people. But just don't give up. Like that's all I can say, is that in aviation, like especially being a pilot, you have to want it. And it's one of those things that will test you. And all I can say is that the wait's worth it. All right. Know that you're not alone. You do have the comment section. Please connect with each other if you ever need to like talk about it. But yeah, you will get that job eventually. All right. And this entire video is basically just, you're not alone. Don't give up. All right. I've been there. You will get through it. All right. Anyways, this wound up being more of a podcast anyways. I'm sorry. Not sorry. I just wanted to put this resource out there because there's not a whole whack load of other people talking about this. And I'd love to talk more about the Catch-22 and this aspect of that you don't have the hours to get that job, but to get that job, you need the hours. So that's what the whole Catch-22 is. Anyways, thank you very much for watching / listening. I almost sounded like Sean Connery there. Thanks again for watching, everyone, listening, everyone. Have a great day. Fly safe. And as always, happy landings. And yeah, we will see you in the next video. Goodbye.